Welcome back. Today I thought I would speak about a topic regarding a community that I did not even know existed, which I apparently belong to. That is that of what are called targeted individuals. As I began to view some videos from these different individuals, I became quite aware that many of them were not, some were aware of this, some were not, but that many were not aware of the different extent of the nature of what was really occurring to them, and also how to change what is occurring to them. There is one video where an older gentleman does present essentially the idea that I will present, but he doesn't give you a roadmap. He doesn't tell you how to really go about doing what he purports to have done. Now, I can attest that he is completely right, this particular person, and I will get into that as we go in. Now, this may be a long presentation. That is because this is an extensive topic, and I did prepare quite a bit before this to give the presentation so that I could convey the best information possible for my fellow targeted individuals. Or I should say, perhaps I'm a former targeted individual, because I've become able to essentially fight off the different things that they attempt to do to you. So this might be a bit long, but I will say that it's worth it. Like I've said, I became a targeted individual. I will save the full story of this, an abridged version, at the end of the video if you are interested. But what is relevant is that I became a targeted individual in August of 2014. I did not know what gang stalking was. I did not know what gaslighting was. People in sunglasses, delivery vans. I've heard people say that white vans would appear. Well, for me, it wasn't a white van. It would always be a delivery truck of some type that would deliver some kind of atrocious thing to me, which was the joke. Oh, the mailman's here to deliver some awful thing to you. That was what they wanted me to associate the delivery truck with. And so things of that nature were done to me, along with some very extreme things that I won't explain at the moment. But for yourself, as a targeted individual, what you need to look at is try to take into perspective all angles of the situation, what you think you are perceiving. I've targeted this video for people that are not particularly that spiritual and that are seeing this phenomenon in a very government mind control type context, which it is. But there are some other factors to this that if you don't know, you might never get yourself out. And that is the absolute truth they don't want you to know. And that's why I'm here to tell you how to do it. Now, what you're seeing, is it really what could be going on? Could your neighbors really be conspiring against you? Or could you have simply been manipulated to make you think that? But they knew that I was doing this, and they said this, and they said that. Most of the time, when this occurs, the people who are saying the things that appear to be regarding your very private or intimate activities, they usually have no idea that what they are saying has anything to do with you. And that is the complete truth. There are a handful of times where there are distinct people sent in, like in my case, there were distinct people who, when I confronted them head on, would verbally say, yes, I'm doing this, and yes, we're trying to kill you. Essentially, that was what would occur when I would confront different individuals. Some individuals, when I would confront them, would act very frightened because I had confronted them, would quickly try to change the subject and essentially run away from me. So it was a mix of people who didn't know anything was going on and a mix of people who did in my scenario. which began back in August 2014 and continued through into 2015 to around May. I was able to do some work after that time, but then in September I began to notice very subtle things, as if things were being sneakily done to me. And so I really jumped on top of the problem. What I need to explain first is what I'm calling the ascension connection. Some of you may have heard of the New Age concept of ascension. This sounds a little bit, like esoteric hooey or, hocus pocus a little bit. So I prefer to explain this as an energetic shift. This is physics. This is not New Age hocus pocus. This is physics. The planet is going through a part of its solar system, not solar system, but a part of the galaxy where we are receiving forms of light which we have never received on this planet for quite a long time. I believe the cycle will be 26,000 years. And at this time, the reason the targeting is occurring like it is on such a large scale like it is, and that we all know that it's occurring now like it is because these people in power don't want us to become awakened, as many of us will call it, or activated, as other people will call it, by this new influx of light energy. It has been hidden from us, the properties of light and of higher physics that is frankly our birthright, and the mark of any advanced society is the free flow of information, and that has been restricted for us, and we must take that back as citizens of the United States, as citizens of the world, citizens of all the countries of the planet that we call Earth. So this is essentially an energetic shift that we're going through, and powers that be don't want us to collectively shift. So let us say I have a friend who is associated with the FBI, and I asked her about this. She said, well, what we do is we essentially target people who have latent spiritual abilities, whether they know it or not, and then we'll target other people just as guinea pigs to see how they'll react in any kind of new mind control we're trying to enact. We'll just use guinea pigs. So some of you might be in the category of what's been referred to me as a guinea pig, and others of you might be in the category like myself, where you were targeted for spiritual abilities, either that you began to realize or that you are not aware of, and that's what they want. It is highly likely that you are actually in a category. If you've experienced quite a bit of this, and you've identified that you believe their goal is to get you to commit suicide, you are likely one of the different kinds of humans who possesses latent spiritual sorts of abilities that you haven't accessed yet. Or maybe if you have, it's been in a very vague sense. You're not quite sure about it. It seems crazy. You're not really sure what to think. Well, that is one of the major reasons that they will target an individual when they sense or see these kinds of things in people. Now also, what makes you easy to target? One thing we know for sure is that being alone or isolated makes you easy to target. Second, a tendency towards a paranoid, defensive, or guarded kinds of behaviors, as if you're always looking over your shoulder. The mentality that we tend to have as when we become targeted individuals, we tend to look over our shoulder and we don't know what the heck is going to happen next. So that is a normal response to the situation. And third, what makes you susceptible is an attitude that the world is dangerous, unsafe, or fearful. Those last explanations might seem strange, besides being isolated, so I'll explain those last few reasons in a moment. Fear is the true fuel being used to continue to harass you. Now we must move into the metaphysics of this. Now realize that I was a targeted individual just like you. I didn't even know the words, like I said, gang stalking or gaslighting, to describe the strange mind control being enacted upon me. I called it program gibberish because I couldn't figure out what to call it. I just knew that people were saying things all around me that appeared to be about me, and that I could identify that it appeared that some of these people actually did not have any awareness that it pertained to me. So that's why I began to call it gibberish, because I understood that it was things designed to target me psychologically, but that I was deciding, you know what, this is really creepy, but I'm going to start fending it off. I know you might be convinced that your home and work are full of cameras. I was too at one point. That your neighbors really are plotting against you, and that no matter where you run, where you move, what you do, what job you change, you cannot escape and are doomed for life or until they get you to commit suicide. Now, being that I understand the metaphysics of these things, when I was targeted, I was perceived as a major threat. And measures were taken to attempt to assassinate me multiple times. I will not describe this story, at least at the moment, but rest assured that not only do I know what you have gone through, but I've probably gone through more, with the exception actually of one targeted individual who I've met who I would actually say has gone through a more extenuating circumstance than I went through. And by this, when I say experienced much more, I mean experienced the use of deadly force against me, which I had to survive through repeatedly. While you consider this new metaphysical information that I'm about to present, keep in mind that government mind control targeting is designed to make a target sound crazy. We all know this. And it's designed to make you sound crazy even to other targets. You've probably experienced this, where one target is talking about something that they're hearing in their head with the voice of God weapon, but then they're getting it confused with if they have a spiritual guidance that's trying to guide them, and you think, I'm not sure what you're talking about, I'm not sure what's right, I'm not sure if you're half off your rocker, some of the stuff you say sounds right, some you say sounds wrong. That has been an experience that I have gone through. I call it the David Icke phenomenon, where at first David Icke claimed that he was Jesus and he was the laughingstock of England. Now, 30 years later, he is a well-renowned speaker all over the world, and he's the most cited when it comes to these conspiracies involving the powers that be and who is really behind them. So, what I'm saying may sound crazy to you. It may sound impossible. It may sound like I am coming from a place of no logic. It might seem like something for you to dismiss, but what I'm going to tell you right now, if you dismiss what I'm going to tell you, that's exactly what they want. the only way that I've been able to fend off, abate, and change what was a severe targeting situation in my circumstance, meaning targeting to the death. The way that I was able to get out of this was because I already understood the fundamental basics of how reality is formed. So please also look at all of this for yourself. Look at these theories that I'm about to present and begin to test them in your own lives. Do your own research, read other material, go to other people that talk about these things. See what you feel resonates with you, and you may feel a feeling right here at the base of your sternum, which is what New Age type people call the heart chakra. But you could simply think of it as your heart. It's what we call a broken heart. It's when we say, my heart's telling me to do something. You're talking about this when you're saying that. There is a reason we have those feelings, and this is why, the heart chakra, as well as in conjunction with the organ of the heart. So what is this big secret, basically, of ridding yourself of this torture? The secret is that you essentially have to create the secret is that you essentially create every event that occurs in your environment. You create your own reality. So what that literally means is that as you walked outside and people were talking about whatever private, intimate, embarrassing things you were doing last night, you somehow set up the situation so that you could walk into it, because you are creating your own reality, whether you are aware of it or not. And one of the biggest secrets that has been hidden from us is that we have this inherent ability as humans. And not only do we have it, but as humans, we have this ability to an extreme degree. That is why the powers that be are so frightened of us knowing or understanding this, because we can literally warp reality with our thoughts. I think I'm jumping a little bit ahead of myself, so I'm going to check my notes. So this might sound pretty far-fetched, but I have personally witnessed that this is all true. All reality is subject to the observer. There is not actually an absolute truth. Most of us, or most targeted individuals who are not really aware of these things, walk around thinking that they are a victim of everything that's happening to them. That you're just kind of ambiently walking around on the planet in your state or your country or wherever you are, and that these things are just happening to you and you have no control over it. The way reality actually works is that you have complete control over what occurs in your reality, but this knowledge has been deliberately suppressed so that you won't attempt to consciously alter your reality. And when you use the correct methods, or the most effective methods, to do this in a targeting scenario, that's really scary to them, because this works like gravity. This law, as I will get to here, is called the law of attraction, something some of you have heard. You see, to understand this, you must understand how reality comes into being. Your thoughts are not trapped inside your head. They don't bounce around inside your skull. They reverberate out into the universe as frequencies, which are your thoughts and emotions. And the frequencies, meaning your collection of thoughts and emotions that you send out, similarly attracts back to you a matching experience of what you have sent out, kind of like a magnet. This is called the law of attraction of similar frequency, or for short, law of attraction. And it is not magic. It is physics. You have to believe me when I say that, and I'm going to be firm about it. It's not magic, it's physics. This law, like I just said, is as powerful as the law of gravity. That is how strongly it works. When in a target situation, you are co-creating a reality between yourself and the ones responsible for this targeting. For this to occur, the perpetrators require what is sometimes called an opening. This refers to a vibrational opening. So imagine frequencies swirling around. We're taught that they go like this. They're actually swirls like this, and now we have more accurate pictures of them in textbooks. So imagine these swirls of frequency that you've got, that you send out. And they have to look for an opening in those frequencies, in those emotions and thoughts that you hold, in order to target or attack you in some way. So that is what actually allowed for the targeting to even be created by you in your own life. And this can be a hard pill to swallow, thinking, but I didn't do any of this. I didn't like walk outside and ask for all the people to suddenly be talking about me. I didn't ask for people to drive by me suddenly and flash all their lights at me and look at me with dark sunglasses, and people following me around in dark sunglasses or baseball caps or whatever, or for me it was people with sunglasses and black, wearing all black with sunglasses would follow me around. Any kind of delivery truck, anytime I saw a delivery truck of any type, a mail truck, no matter what kind it was, I would get delivered some kind of horrible circumstance or event immediately after seeing the mail truck. And so for quite a while I was scared of seeing mail trucks. Now, once you find yourself deeply into this kind of opening, meaning that you've fallen headfirst into the target situation, you weren't aware of how you played a role in creating it, you weren't aware of how you were being monitored and manipulated in different ways so that you would be easier to attack. You didn't know about any of these things. It's not your fault. That's why I'm here to help provide this education, which I hope, honest to God, I hope you take my advice here, even though it might sound a little bit strange or a little bit beyond strange if you're not used to this concept, or if only thought of this in a government kind of sense where people are paid off or things like that. Now, certainly those things occur, but the real sources behind this are quite a bit different than you might think. So once you find yourself deeply into an opening of being targeted, I've always observed the process, and also for myself, this is true, I've observed the process of creating a new reality free of the targeting for yourself tends to be a slow going. And I've noticed that that's because of all of the resistance that you get from the people doing the targeting. So when you attempt to progress and stop them in the correct way, they catch on, think, oh my God, that person's figured out one of the key secrets of the universe, and will generally attempt to deter you in some way. They might acutely do something to you to try to scare you away from doing anything more. But when they do that, it means it's working, and it means you have to keep going, and that you have to have no fear when you're doing it. And I'm going to actually explain some good methods for how to start doing this. Now we must understand that everything in existence has begun with a thought. Your car outside, if you've got a car, is a result of your decision to buy one. You ate lunch because you conceived the thought that you were hungry, or the thought that I want to make this for lunch, or I want to go to this restaurant for lunch. You didn't just show up there. You had the thought in your mind first, which then crystallized down into reality. These are very simple examples to understand. But what most people don't understand is that when you, let us say, imagine scenarios in your mind, you are actually affecting the quantum realm or quantum physics, which is part of the way in which reality is manifested. So when you begin to affect things using your thoughts on a subatomic level, there's a famous experiment called the double slit experiment, which does prove that particles behave in conjunction with your thoughts, that your thoughts can affect atoms and particles in that exact way. There are real tests. It's called the double slit experiment. You can look it up. So, with the basic examples, the thought created something in your reality. The truth is that you have far more control over your life and reality via the new discoveries of quantum physics than you ever thought possible, and you have been lied to all of your life about this basic fact. The quick answer to stopping targeting is to change your thoughts and emotions about your entire life in general. But being that I am just like all of you, I cannot stress that enough, the things that I've gone through. I feel like a war veteran of what I've gone through. Because I'm just like all of you guys as targeted individuals, and have likely gone through more serious things and harm when I was an active target. I know full well that saying change your thoughts and emotions about your life is much more easier said than done when you are actually experiencing this phenomenon. You see, in order for targeting to continue, the mind control perpetrator must instill in you a constant fear and paranoia in order to continue to keep your frequency at a vibrational match to the experience of being targeted. So see this a bit like magnets. So you and your body, in your nervous system, you generate emotions, thoughts, feelings, and these reverberate out to the universe. The way the law of attraction, similar frequency, works is that these frequencies seek to match out other similar frequencies. So you will end up attracting to yourself a situation in your life that matches your frequency. And when you get into the constant mindset of, oh my God, what's going to happen next? Oh my God, everyone's against me. There's no hope. Should I kill myself? That kind of cycle is what they depend on to keep you a match to the targeting. They tend to attempt very classical psychological techniques, classical and operant conditioning, to do these sorts of things to your mind to cause you to think in this sort of fearful loop. This causes you For example, to fear people in sunglasses, or perhaps every time you see a white van or a delivery truck, you become convinced that everyone is plotting against you. And this is a thought pattern, like I said, that they need to continue to co-create this reality of hell with you. You must slowly raise the quality of your thoughts and emotions, specifically to the point in frequency terms that the lower fearful frequency surrounding mind control literally cannot occur in your space. Because as the law of attraction states, two dissimilar frequencies cannot share the same space. Two frequencies which do not match cannot share the same space. They cannot exist together. So the frequencies involved with targeting are quite specific. And if you change your mind state and your emotional state, that completely changes your frequency and immediately begins to separate you from the phenomenon, because they literally can't do it to you. It's just like gravity and trying to say that I'll hold this rock up and I'll hold this rock up and somehow it won't fall. This is a law of physics, and I've truly seen it work, just like the laws of physics that are well known about. Now, you will know that your personal frequencies are improving because you will slowly experience happier emotions and a more joyful mode of thinking. The best indicator to know of if your frequency is increasing in general is if you begin to feel good. When you feel positive emotions, when you feel joy going in the direction of your bliss, when you feel satisfaction in life, when you feel the positive emotions that you want to feel that are genuine, that is when you know that you are going in the correct vibrational or frequency direction that is the opposite of the ones that want to target you. And they cannot stand those higher frequencies, so they can't get near you once you get good enough at this. Now, this is only the beginning of reversing the sadistic tactics used to control you, because as we know, we are instilled with what we call triggers to react fearfully to a certain stimulus, providing that crucial frequency opening, that fear reaction. That's the frequency opening. As soon as you react with fear to the stimulus, whatever they're using as a stimulus for you, like for me, the delivery truck, whenever you react with fear, that suddenly provides the vibrational opening for them to basically invade your reality. You could think of it that way. Even though you are the one creating the reality, you are inviting those events to occur in the reality you are creating by reacting with fear. These triggers must be deprogrammed, as we know, and as a collective of people who have gone through these things, we have the ability to help each other heal the wounds of the past. In some scenarios, mind control is successful at what we say splitting the mind and creating alters. They tried to do this to me, but failed. And from what I understand, this was highly confusing to many of the entities or people involved with this. They weren't quite sure why I would not dissociate and why I would not split into alters, but I simply wouldn't. It was as if my it was as if my neurological system was built in such a way that it could not be interfered with in that kind of manner. So unfortunately, I don't have experience in helping people who have developed alters, but I can help you get out of being a targeted individual if you listen to what I'm saying. And if something I say does not make sense, please email me or contact me on Facebook. I'll put my Facebook at the bottom of the video, so that if you need to contact me about something like this, or, I didn't understand when you said this, I'm not sure exactly what to do, or, am I doing it right? This does work. It's not hocus pocus. Again, it's physics. And if you understand it, you can beat these people. Now, here is how to reprogram a trigger, a simple way to reprogram a trigger. And I've already described my experience with the delivery truck. Here's what I did when I kept seeing those damn delivery trucks. I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to decide something. I just came up with this, and I said, you know what? When I see the delivery truck, I am going to think, I see a new opportunity for growth. And that's what the delivery truck is going to mean to me. Because when you create your own reality, when you hold those beliefs strongly enough, that is what will reflect in your reality. And after I decided that, I was walking home and I saw a delivery truck. And at first I was frightened, but then I said, no, I've decided that this is a new opportunity for growth. And I focused intently on where is my new opportunity for growth. I don't have time for you, delivery truck. I need my new opportunity for growth. You showed up, so you mean that I have a new opportunity for positive growth. I'm going to find it. And sure enough, I got home. Usually when I would see a delivery truck outside, I would not get delivered the bad whatever it was until I would get home. It took me 10 minutes walking around inside my house to realize that nothing had happened and that I had actually completely overcome the trigger. So do things along that nature. Associate different things with the trigger. Basically reassign a new meaning to it. And hold fast in your mind that this trigger now has a completely new meaning, and that every time you see it, regardless of what happens, you are going to think not what's happened in the past. I'm going to think, now this thing that I see means this positive thing in my life. This is going to mean that, I know for one person, the trigger was a knife. You could say, it was something that was also violent, so it was traumatic. And so I might say, all right, for a trigger like that, seeing a knife and thinking of something traumatic or ritualistic being done to you, think instead of seeing that knife and cutting the cord that has been binding you to these people. When you see that knife, think of your empowerment as a fighter, that you are cutting away these different ties that have caused you to become a match to their reality, and that they've been able to impose their reality, co-create their reality with yours and match it with yours. Now, numerology does also work the same way, although people will disagree with me on this, but I've seen it, and numerology works the same way. We have, vague decided meanings of what certain numbers mean when you see certain numbers, things like that. Some of you who are targeted may have had the numerology stuff done to you if you knew about numerology, things done to frighten you, or seeing 9/11 in places, or 13 or 32, or numbers that are considered to be scary numbers. I call them the scary numbers. But these numbers are actually only what you make of them, and if your power of focus about what they mean is strong enough, whether it is dominant over what the opponent thinks the number means. So, for example, when I was being targeted in the beginning, when I was fighting quite fiercely against it, I would see the number 11, and I associate that with angels. And I would become aware of angelic presences trying to help me. But then their frequency managed to gain the upper hand over me, and I would see the number 11, and it would become associated with, mind control and the Illuminati and global conspiracies and all kinds of things, and death and things that I did not associate the number 11 with. And I was thinking, oh my God, this is not supposed to work this way. I associate the number 11 with angels. But I realized that they had overpowered my frequency of seeing that as angels. But sure enough, after enough time, it returned back to how it was before. When I would see the number 11, that would always represent angels, and that still has now. So depending on what you believe, seeing a number means dictates how you will experience this. And it is all surrounded, like I said, by holding the most dominant emotions and thoughts, or thought pattern. Or rather, by you holding the most dominant frequency. Now, one thing that you can do in these kinds of serious situations is focus moment to moment on things which make you feel better mentally and emotionally, and do those things. That could be as simple as rolling over in bed. That could be as simple as writing a diary entry. That could be as simple as putting on a comedy movie. Think to yourself, what will make me feel better right now, as small as it is? And you want to slowly focus your attention on what is good in the situation. All right, I'm in the middle of a huge fucking hell, but I want to find the good things in the situation. And as you keep placing your focus on good things in the situation, or seeking the relief, that maybe you think, well, everything sucks, but a hot bath might make me feel a little better. Or, maybe my friend giving me a massage might make me feel a little better, even though they don't understand any of this and think I'm crazy. I just won't say anything to them and ask them for a massage. Anything like that, whether small or big. Attempt to do anything that will immediately begin to make you feel better in the situation, or has been said by different teachers, go in the direction of your bliss is what this gets called, or this also gets called go in the direction of your highest excitement. It basically means do what makes you feel good moment to moment to moment, especially when you are in a situation where you are targeted constantly. And I know what that's like. So I had to literally do that. Focus on the tiniest little details of, oh, how interesting those patterns on the wall are. Because I couldn't figure out anything else that might be good or of value or something to be grateful for in the situation. And so as you begin to feel better mentally and emotionally, this is what raises your collective frequencies. When people talk about frequency, they refer to it as if you just have one frequency. The truth is that you've got a billion of them swimming around you that cause a composite that's quite hard for us to measure, but that I believe we have the technology to measure because of the different frequency-based weapons, such as HARP, that are used, and the Gwen towers and things like that. But like I said before, you may experience sudden attacks when you begin this mental training, as these are the true secrets. They really are. These are the true secrets that they don't want you to know, because that is the way out. And as long as they've got you confused, as long as they've got you thinking that it's a government program and people have been paid off and half the people are against you, and there are all these people in black and sunglasses following you around, and people saying things about your personal life, that is the creepiest thing, I think, personally, of their entire mind control program. I was also subjected to kitten programming, things like that. So women who, feel like they might need to talk about that, things involving prostitution, I was subjected to kitten programming. So I do know what that is like. I was very resistant to it, but it was an incredibly intense experience to be subjected to that kind of intense remote mind control. But if you don't learn these real secrets that I'm talking about, how to change your reality, how to use your frequency to manifest and create the reality that you want, you're going to end up still locked up as a slave instead of liberated. So long as you are kept in the dark about your power as a quantum being in a multidimensional universe, which is something that is already recognized by our physicists. Every time you experience backlash, know that what you are doing is working. This might sound like an odd concept, but the energy from your nervous system, like I was saying before, creates fearful, angry, or powerless victim type emotions, which act as a literal power source for these puppeteers who have done these things to us. As soon as you begin to energetically starve them of these negative emotions, these agencies are not able to attack you nearly as well. They need the negative energy generated by us. Literally imagine yourself as like a battery, as depicted in the Matrix, where they're using humans as batteries. That is similar to what is being done with us through our energetic systems, and all this information is being hidden from us. And in the TI community, I've noticed that if someone attempts to talk about this, they get called nuts. Well, I'm going to tell you guys, how many times have you been called nuts? And you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that what happened to you really happened. I experienced the same thing, and I know you're not nuts. And I can say the reason that it's not happening to me is because I've been able to harness these concepts that I'm talking about. So these powers that be basically siphon off the energy that you generate in these fearful, negative kinds of emotions, and they use them as a power source in their various types of advanced technologies that use what we would call dark energy, I suppose, might be a unscientific word for it. And this is essentially the energy of depression, suicidality, fear, powerlessness, and anger. They've learned to drain this energy from target humans to be used for their evil ends and advanced technologies. And like I said, they require you to think in this negative, cyclic way to both harass you repeatedly and to drain you repeatedly of your negative emotions as a result of what they're doing, as their literal power source for many of these programs that they're running, involving technologies that we can hardly fathom or dream of. But that doesn't mean they're benevolent by far, probably quite the opposite. Also, in keeping with these new concepts of redirecting your focus, the big issue here is your focus. You are redirecting your focus. Stop constantly thinking about the fact that you are a targeted individual. One thing I noticed from a lot of people in the TI community was that they were somewhat obsessed over the fact that they were targeted individuals. This obsession continues to create that in your reality. Now I'm going to explain more a little bit about how this works with the universe. The universe senses our composite frequencies, in addition to the puppeteers that we're used to having to deal with. And the universe assumes very non-judgmentally that the energy you are putting out, the frequency you are putting out of this fear and paranoia and anger and powerlessness, it assumes, oh, I see that is what you are. That must be what you want. And so it non-judgmentally simply gives you more of the same, thinking that it is loving you and doing so. So when you send the universe a message of, oh my God, I feel suicidal, I don't know what to do, I'm losing my mind, the universe will send you more situations which will continue to make you feel suicidal, depressed, angry, and lose your mind. Now, if your thoughts constantly revolve around the fact that you are a targeted individual, you are quite literally telling the creative power of the universe that this is what you want, basically. Because it loves you without judgment, the universe jumps at the ability to create the very hellish scenario that it thinks you're asking for. Again, the powers that be want you to disbelieve me. If you're watching this, if you're a targeted individual, you've watched this far, and you're thinking, I don't believe this. I can't accept that I created this stuff, that I somehow made these people appear and such and such and such. It is hard to accept, but it is true, and it will save your life, especially if you become an assassination target like I was. So the powers that be might want you to, well, they do want you to completely disbelieve me. But this knowledge is the only way that I have defeated target attacks and begun to structure the real life that I have wanted. I also feared that I was doomed for life, that I was going to be followed everywhere I went, that I was going to be harassed and almost murdered everywhere I went. But as soon as I took what I knew and put it into practice, my targeting began to stop, and I've begun to form strong bonds with many of the people who viewed my channel, and then other targeted individuals who I found through meeting other people who saw me on YouTube. And many of us have all essentially undergone the same thing. So the true key to all of this is to explore your own deep personal beliefs and deep emotions. This is how we are singled out as being susceptible, basically. and preyed upon, aside from if you are specifically targeted for spiritual sorts of latent abilities. Somehow, our subconscious beliefs allowed us to willingly create our hell with no conscious knowingness of it. For example, are you under a lot of stress? Does the world feel hostile or dangerous to you? Have you always felt that way since you were a child? Did something happen to you as a child which changed a specific core belief about yourself into a very negative belief? Could it be that you have subconsciously felt like a victim all of this time because of childhood abuse? Could it be that deep inside you actually hate yourself? Could it be subconsciously that you feel worthless, thus allowing this total intrusion into your reality sphere with all of this targeting? Rest assured, most people who appear to comment on your thoughts have no idea it pertains to you. And that is one of the best tools that I've learned. When I hear things, I will tell myself, and those people have no idea what I am thinking, and they are simply talking to themselves, and that has nothing to do with me. I will actually think that to myself and sometimes repeat it aloud to reinforce that those people are having lunch over there and I am walking into the store. This has nothing to do with me. So, see, most of the people that you think are, repeating your thoughts or saying strange things about you that seem conspiratorial in nature, they generally have not been paid off or blackmailed. I know this because I actually was a couple of times used to harass people verbally as like a gaslighter, like a gang stalker. And I would actually catch myself being used in this way, or subtly directed in my conversation. So I would be having a conversation with a person, and I would begin to talk, and these were other people with strong psychic types of abilities. So they were aware, very aware of what was going on. And as I would begin to talk with them, I would suddenly stop at certain sentences and hold up my hands like this and say, whoa, 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 no. Like as if to say, that's not about you. I would actually say, I just caught that. And do this motion as if to mean from my consciousness to yours, I just caught that what I said is designed to be mind-controlled gibberish targeted at you. Gang stalking, gaslighting, whatever it gets called. And I would actually catch this. The way it feels to a person who ends up being used in this way is that they feel as if they are simply talking about a relevant topic to themselves. And the conversation becomes directed or influenced in a particular way so that just at the right moment you end up saying something totally true for yourself, but that ends up having to pertain to the other person. And there are, different theories as to how this is done. I don't want to go into some of the more what you would call outlandish theories about this, but many people have actually talked about how people who are gang stalking or gaslighting really often don't know at all that they are saying anything about you whatsoever. So I know I'm by far not the first to say something like that. Now, it appears, like me, it appears that a few people become aware of when they become a gaslight or gang stalking type puppet, like I described. I have also encountered real perpetrators who clearly followed me, made direct comments when I confronted them, And so it was clear that some of these perpetrators do exist and are fully aware of what they are doing because of different things that were said to me by different, not many people, but a handful of people. And so it was apparent that there were a handful of people who did fully know what was going on or what was being done to me. However, everything that I've said still applies. Change your thoughts and emotions around the situation and things will change. I would like you to start. This is an excellent tool, so please do this. It will help you immensely. I would like you to start what is often called a gratitude journal, in which you do as Christ or your favorite master did, and thank your enemies for whatever lessons you have learned from them. Think of anything that you can be grateful for them. I can draw a comparison from a Katy Perry song, in her song Stronger. She says, "Thanks to you, I've got a new thing started, and thanks to you, I'm not the brokenhearted. Thanks to you, I'm finally thinking about me." So these are examples that you could use to say, I'm grateful for this experience because now it's shown me what I really want in life. I'm grateful for this experience because I've begun to learn different things about reality. I'm grateful for this experience because it has caused me to grow in this way and such way. I'm grateful for this experience because now I have hope that I can change the experience because I've seen other people do it. Another thing that's very important, they cannot stand this, and when you start to do this consistently, they will back off. Send either the light of Christ consciousness, or you can imagine a light of healing or a violet ray of healing, some kind of healing energy that possesses a quality of unconditional love. The unconditional love must be real, and it's very hard to unconditionally love a bunch of people from the CIA who are harassing you and following you and like tracking everything you do. But if you enter into a state of meditation and ask for help with this, if you have extensive trouble with this, thinking, I hate those motherfuckers, you will be given assistance if you ask wholeheartedly from only the beings that are of the love and light of the Christ consciousness of the highest dimensions, of the angels, of those higher beings, those helpers that we consider to be in a much higher spiritual state than us. They will give you ideas. They will assist you. You might not notice a literal presence, but an idea might pop into your head. And you might think, oh, maybe that's a way that I can think of how to love them. How did they grow up? Did they grow up born into this? And maybe this was done to them when they were 2 years old. And I can't imagine what that would be like. Begin to exhibit compassion for the ones who are harming you. So exhibit gratitude for them, unconditional love for them, and compassion for them, and direct these three things directly at the troubled souls, essentially, who commit these crimes. Send healing and balance. Imagine also balance, that they are able to attain balance in their own lives, because for them to be doing this to you, they must be in a really horrible state themselves. And after having interacted with some of these people, particularly those with connections to secret agencies, I could see that they were extremely unhappy. They hated what they were doing, even though they would get a temporary rush out of messing with someone, or they would be taught to enjoy harming people. So they would get a rush out of messing with someone or doing something to someone. But just like sex, the high, or a drug, the high would wear off, and then they would feel just as literally dead inside as they had before. And a lot of these people are realizing this, and they simply do not know how to get out of the situation that they are in, because they, are subject to implants, all kinds of intense mind control tactics, different biological things introduced to the system, different ways to make them dependent on returning to it and continuing to work in it, even though they've begun to decide that they want to get out, but they don't know how to get out. And it is actually us, the targeted individuals, who have the power to say, you know what, you ruined my life. You stole my job from me, happened to me. You stole my job. You stole my house. You stole my money. You made me homeless. You tried to kill me with carbon monoxide. You tried to kill me with all kinds of strange poisons in food and water. You tried to cause me to die of kidney failure. You subjected me to strange astral rape inside of a hospital. You did the list, going on of extreme experiences. You tampered with all of my mail. You cursed crystals that I bought so that they would attempt to murder me or break all my bones. You threw things at my wall that I have on camera that I can show you. You put tracking software on my phone where a blue eye would flash on my phone and attempt to tell me what to click on, as if it was trying to control my thoughts, which I also have on camera. And when you can experience all of that and then enter into a state of meditation and ask, how can I forgive these people? How do I find gratitude for them? How do I find the lesson that I was meant to learn from them? How do I find love in my heart for them? How do I send them healing? And whether or not you actually sense some kind of presence or voice or whatnot, and some of you with the voice of God weapon thing, you might be a bit leery of voices in your head. But with spiritual information, you don't hear a literal voice, a loud voice in your head. You don't hear it like the voice of God weapon. You usually get a spontaneous idea rather than the more contrived voice of God type stuff. That was something that I don't believe was ever used on me, but I did receive a foot implant where voices were being blared in my head for a couple of days straight, so I do know what that is like. And so these programs absolutely cannot exist when you maintain a frequency of true, unconditional love and gratitude for your suspected perpetrators. Remember that your perpetrators are your government and military, not the individuals you see gaslighting or gang stalking most of the time. I gotta keep repeating that because some people don't seem, they seem confused about that concept, some people. The people that are doing this are basically secret black ops programs that are linked into all of our world governments and all of our world militaries, particularly the black ops sections of the militaries, the CIA, all the secret agencies, MI5, MI6, FBI, NSA, all of the particular agencies, KGB too. And the KGB, they're pretty scary. But you should direct your new list, when you finally have your list of gratitude and reasons to feel love, unconditional love for these people, direct it directly at world black ops. Just think directly, I am sending my love, my gratitude, and my thanks and my healing to all of the world's black ops militaries and secret governments. I am sending out all of my unconditional love. And the reason I say world is because our countries are they're working together to target individuals like this. Lastly, reach out to a community, or do as I have done by venting frustration in videos, blogs, art, music, writing, whatever calls to you. This will instantly make you harder to target in a group and will help jumpstart your progress in raising your emotions, thus closing those emotional openings for you to allow the targeting to manifest in your reality. So send the military, government, and black ops your gratitude and love every single day, especially when you get attacked. When you get attacked, look at the situation and attempt to identify, what am I grateful for? What can I be grateful for? What is good about this? What lesson have I learned? How can I learn to love you better? What could have happened to you to make you this way? How can I help you? And it is this vibration, they can't stand it. They just can't stand it. They cannot be around it. And they may try to throw cheap shots at you when you start doing that, to try to stop you, to try and make you scared again. But when they do that, it's because they're afraid, and it's because they know that you are progressing up that vibrational ladder, so to speak, so that they can't affect you. So essentially, to try to sum everything up, this is a pretty complicated concept, but there are a few concepts in tandem. One is that our reality is created by our thoughts and emotions, and we all have our own separate sphere of reality. When we put off a certain frequency, the universe, the way this universe works is it sees the frequency that we put off, meaning the thoughts and emotions that we are thinking. And if they're scary thoughts and emotions that we are thinking, the universe sees that because it loves us. It believes, oh, this must be what you want. All right, I'll give you scary, crazy, hellish situations of targeting. And so because they are aware of these laws of physics, of these laws of your thought and your vibration, your emotion, how they affect your reality, they try to get you quickly trapped into a cycle of fear. And that way you continually match a reality in which you are constantly targeted. The way to really get the targeting to stop is to address your deepest core issues, but sometimes that's too hard when things are very intense. And trust me, I know about that. I've had things thrown at me out of nowhere. I've been exposed to radiation. I've had all kinds of insane, lethal things happen to me. So when you're doing this, it can be hard to quickly jump to a higher vibration. So that's where you start small and you start thinking, okay, in this crazy situation, what is there that's good that I can go towards? What am I grateful for right now? Oh, I really have this book that I like. I'm grateful for my book. You write down. I really love the movie Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. I'll write that down. I really love guacamole. I'll write that down. I have some guacamole in the refrigerator. I'm really grateful for that. I'll write that down. And write down things that you are grateful for in the immediate environment, things that you can give thanks for. And this will start to slowly lift your vibration, slowly lift your emotional state to a point where you can start to think, okay, so these guys targeting me, whoever the heck's doing it, they must have had really awful childhoods. How could they turn out this way? Who could do this? I mean, and the way they work is they mind control all of their people. All of their people are all mind controlled. So they went through extremely severe trauma and are then trying to inflict that trauma on you. And some of those people don't agree with it, but they don't know what else to do. So some of them really want our help, and some of them need our help and don't quite know it yet. Because the more people that we can save as we go, when I say save, I mean save from a life in darkness. I don't mean it in a Christian sense, but save from living in that dark, depressed, lower kind of emotional state. The more people we can bring up from that, the greater good that we are doing for the entire planet. And that affects the entire planetary reality that we have formed something of a vague consensus on, though the way I've heard it more complicated, in a more complicated way described, that we are all our own separate reality spheres, but that we agree on certain key points and thus have an illusion of a consensus reality. That appears to be one of the best explanations I've heard of the idea. So those are the basic concepts. The emotions that you send out, the emotions and the thoughts, but it's mostly emotion that you send out, that energy, if it's the fearful or any kind of negative sort of energy, anything that feels bad to you, that not only propagates you getting targeted more because your frequency matches that of being targeted, but your energy that you generate also gets siphoned off of you to be used as basically fuel to target more people using this highly advanced technology. So when you eliminate it from your life, you're doing two really great things. You're not only eliminating it from your life, but you're also stopping that power source, and you're sending love and peace and gratitude and thanks to the people who are doing it, which affects their own consciousness and can cause them to come to epiphanies that, oh my God, I'm doing the wrong thing and I need to get out. And like I said, there are people that have realized this, but they don't know how to get out. And so they need us in the public. And who more powerful to do things like this than we, the targeted individuals? You'd think we'd want to go screaming in the streets and beat these people up. Well, that one might be a kind of typical human reaction, but we have to learn to evolve beyond those kinds of primal reactions. And in my opinion, although this may not resonate with you specifically, become more spiritually centered beings, simply meaning that we don't act on impulse, that we think about things before we do them, that we think about the highest good, that we try to take care of our planet, Mother Earth, that we become, I don't want to say evolved humans, but humans that are more conscious. That is a better way to say it. So I will first describe, if you enjoyed the video, even though it is quite long, I was suspecting that it might be a bit long. I might try and do it over again if it is too long, really, but at first I will post this. If you benefited from this video, because of everything that I have gone through, literally been chased out of my state because of carbon monoxide. I was chased out of California into Arizona because my entire house kept getting gassed with carbon monoxide and strange toxic fumes, and I was suffocating on them and dying of kidney failure. I couldn't stay there, and I didn't, and I'd gotten myself so deeply into that vibrational opening that I couldn't get myself out without trying to run away. So I had to essentially run away. So the way in which you donate, there are two main ways right now that I suggest that you donate. One is if you have any crystals that you're not using, or if you walk past some of your crystals and you have a sudden sense that one of your crystals wants to be with me, that is an indication from the crystal that they are saying, oh yes, I would like to volunteer to go be with Krista. But use your intuition with this. I am very much kind of a crystalline sort of healer and benefit very much from crystals, so that's something that's always very, very appreciated. And also any kind of financial donations, the way to do that is to go to paypal.com. Then I've tried to get a donate button. It just doesn't quite work straight. So you go to paypal.com, click on send money, and then you enter my email address, which is in the description, but it's also my channel name. It's arcturianphilosophy@gmail.com. So it's arcturianphilosophy@gmail.com. And you can also contact me on that email address if you are interested in donating any crystals. You can also contact me on my Facebook page, which I will put in the description of the video as well, because I'm very interested to hear many of your comments and meet many of you, because I don't want to sound arrogant here, but what I am saying is true. I'm not trying to sound arrogant, I'm just trying to sound forceful, because this is true and it can save your life, especially if you're one of those people who has been driven to suicidality with what has been done to you. Once you learn how to refocus your thoughts, and also another last technique that you can use is to imagine an ideal kind of world for yourself. I may attempt to split this into two different videos because of how much material there is here. But what you can do is imagine the world that you would like to live in, the circumstances you would like to experience, the kind of partner that you would like to have, the kind of life that you would like to have. But don't imagine it like it's off in the distance and you just can't reach it. Imagine it as if you're literally planning it on your calendar. As if, okay, around this month, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to move here, and I'm going to get this job, and I'm going to get this car, and then I'm going to meet this man, and this is what he's going to be like. And you can completely do that. Some people have more ability at that than others. I'm one person that tends to have a stronger ability with that than others. That is called manifestation. But that is another technique that you can use, but I suggest you only do that in conjunction with everything else that I already stated. Maybe after having done the things that I've described, move on to this other kind of modality for trying to create the reality that you've now learned as a result of what you've gone through. This is something you can be thankful for. You've now learned, after going through all this hell, that that's not what you want. So it's benefited you. It's caused you expansion. So now that you know, oh man, I really don't want that. Identify, what do I want? What do I really want? And how am I going to get it? And what I've described are basically some ways using quantum mechanics for how you can get what you truly desire and ward off the targeting that targeted individuals tend to go through. I did also say that I might describe some of my personal story at the very end of this. Because this is a bit long, I'm not sure if I'll be able to do that, but basically, at the end of August 2014, I was attacked by what you would call remote mind control. I was unable to move from bed. I was shaking as if something was electrocuting me. And I was hearing loud voices in my ear saying things like, "You're a good kitten, you're going to be a prostitute for us, you're such a, oh, look at you, you're such a good kitten." And like they would call me such a good kitten, and I just wanted to puke when I would hear that, but I couldn't move. Whatever was being done to me, I could not move from my bed. And this lasted actually for a day and a half or 2 days of being told repeatedly, "You're going to do this, and you're going to do this." And I would just think back, no, I'm not your kitten, no. And apparently my ability to just keep saying no like that was not expected. I ended up going through some very intense life and death sorts of situations. I had people that I had known for years suddenly act different. One person who I had known very well looked at me and said, "I am the devil and I'm coming to get you." Other people said, strange, suspicious things. One person, I would notice people watching me from outside my window. And so I would confront these people. And I would go outside to the balcony and say, "Why are you watching me?" This one man was pretending to get into his car, but he had been pretending to get into his car for about 10 minutes standing there, and I could see him. He was just clearly watching me. So I went outside and said, "Stop watching me." And he said, "You're not that important, lady." But then I began to talk to him in a more personable fashion, not as an enemy, and I don't remember the gist of our conversation exactly, but he began to subtly give me advice. And then, this was the funniest part, he was pretending to get into his car going to work. That was what he said when I first went outside. And he had been standing there, obviously, like pretending to get into his car, but had been standing there for no reason for 10 minutes staring through my window. And as soon as I was done talking with him, he slammed the car door shut and said, "I have a plane to catch," and walked the opposite direction. So for people who have experienced, cars driving past you where a bunch of people with sunglasses look over and they're staring directly at you, in their sunglasses. I've experienced things like that where people are completely aware of what they're doing. And so one of the aims of programs like this is to get people like us who try to speak out put into psychiatric units. That was what was done to me first in August because I was tricked into it. I was tricked into thinking that a hospital might be able to help me because I was almost dying. So I thought, the hospital might help me. Well, guess what? I was given a cup of water and it was drugged in the hospital. I was only quasi-conscious, and with no reason given, I woke up as I was being rolled into a psych unit, and the women there looked at me with these hungry eyes saying, "Oh, is that her?" As if I was some sort of special event for them in some way, and it turned out I believe I was. But after this, there were multiple instances where the police would drag me off for a few hours to a local quasi-emergency room that had a miniature psych department. Several of these times, they would simply release me the same day saying, "I'm sorry, there was a mistake. This seems stupid." At one point, I encountered a girl who had some spiritual potential, and she was not quite taken over by these forces yet or acting in accordance with them. And I began to explain these things to her as quickly as I could when I realized that she needed help. And as soon as I began to do that, the place that I was at began to immediately process my paperwork to get discharged. And they immediately said, "Oh, your taxi's outside." And the girl looked at me and she said, "They're releasing you because you're helping me." And I said, "Yeah, I think that's what it looks like. That's exactly what it looks like." And I do believe that was probably true. I went through several stints like that. Then, after getting chased out of California through all kinds of biological, chemical weapons, I had my wallet stolen. And so, without any access to a bank and no ID, anything, I went to the police of the area that I was in and told them, "Look, this is the situation. Is there a homeless shelter? I need to get access to my bank cards. My wallet's been stolen." The police told me to go away. Yeah, the police told me to go away. So I found a place underneath a bridge. I actually asked the police 3 different times on 3 different days, and in a row, and still ended up having to take cover under a bridge as it began to rain. After this, I went again to an emergency room of the area. I was abused further in the emergency room, astrally raped, exposed to some kind of strange inhalant, which made my legs swell to the point that I could not walk. So I entered the emergency room walking, and when they told me, "Oh, you should leave now," I was unable to walk. How does that make any sense? So they told me, "Oh, well, you can stay in the building behind us. It's a psych ward, but you'd just be staying on the couch, and you'd be able to leave in a couple of days." So I said, "Okay." Sure enough, a couple of days later, I asked to leave, and they told me, "No, you're court ordered to stay." I looked at the court order, and it was bogus. It was accusing me of something that I had never done, and I recognized the name, and the name was an employee of the establishment. I went up to her, approached her, and said, "Why did you do this? Why have you court ordered me to treatment?" And she said, my superior told me to." And then she just walked away, terrified. So what does that tell you right there, huh? many other things occurred. Mind control involving a forced stint for 3 days in jail, which has since been completely dropped because when I was there, the people of the area who were being targeted actually began to see how much I fought back, and they began to fight back themselves. And an attorney of the area said, I've now had multiple cases that you have reported of the exact same thing, of being arrested for literally no reason, of being taken to jail for literally no reason, for doing nothing wrong, essentially, and that this should be completely dropped. So fortunately that was. Then I ended up in Tucson at probably the most difficult psych ward I have dealt with, because within the psych wards, if you are aware of different things occur in your reality, let us say, that go beyond the scope of what you might consider anything close to normal. So I won't describe any of that, but I will say that it was some of the most intense remote mind control tactics that I'd ever been subjected to. And that, for people who have watched me a lot, that's why I've gained weight, because I was held down, forcibly injected with designer drugs, things along that nature. And so I'm still recovering from the effects of those very long-acting injections. So now I have found my way from there. That was back last March 2015. I managed to get out of there and get myself into Tucson, which was an ordeal in and of itself. They wanted me down in a very small town, which was highly mind-controlled. And I fought like a maniac to not be placed into that town or released into that town, so that I would be in Tucson, which was an area that I vaguely still remembered and knew. And also I knew there are more people here. The more people right now, the better. I need the people around me, I could tell. So I managed to get myself in Tucson, managed to arrange things in such a way that worked, although I was still somewhat, vaguely harassed while I first started living here. And it was not until I began to do energy work with a particularly talented healer who identified some certain specific aspects of why those things were still occurring in my reality, when they began to begin again this fall, earlier, and it was not to the same degree, but it was of a sneaky kind of degree, as if I wouldn't quite notice, but I did notice. And I thought, nope, I'm putting a stop to this right now. I do not accept this. I'm going to change this. I don't care what it takes. I'm going to figure out how I'm doing this. How am I creating this stuff? How am I creating this crazy stuff? Because I know that we all create our own reality. How do I uncreate it? How do I create something over it? How do I literally fill your field of reality with so many positive things that it's too hard for a negative thing to get near you, because you're like a bright shining ball of light. And when darkness tries to come near a bright shining ball of light, it just ends up being cast away because it's darkness. And that's simply physics as well. So now I'm, for people who've been wondering about me, I know this is a long video, so I'm doing quite a bit better, but I wanted to do a specific video for targeted individuals. I may make another version of this video where it is in 2 parts, or if I see that there's some lack of understanding of the concepts, or or backlash of the concepts. I don't care if there's backlash exactly, but lack of understanding of the concepts is my main concern, that people who see, oh, I think you could be right, but I'm not quite sure what to do, I don't quite understand. If there's that kind of problem, I would like to make this clear and understandable as possible. So thank you for joining me today on my channel, Arcturian Philosophy, and blessings to you all. To all of you targeted individuals, please remain strong, because there is a light at the end of that tunnel.